Welcome back to story time. It just occurred to me to share another story, and this has to do with warnings, right? And and paying attention to the signs. I'm saying that because I'm sure you can look back in your life and see times when there was a warning that you didn't recognize. And as a result of not recognizing it, you didn't heed that warning. So this story is about me receiving a warning and not heeding that warning. And this was I remember I had just had my first son. I was a junior in college at the University of Maryland. And so I had missed about a month of school. And my first day back, I went to was I think my first class, or I don't remember if it was my first class, but I was going to my criminal justice class, and there were only three people in the room, and it was the teacher, a white guy, and a black guy. So I say, of course, I felt more comfortable going to the black guy. And I could tell that there was a test coming up. That's why there were no students in the classroom. There was a test coming up, and the teacher was there in the event anyone had, had any questions they wanted answered, anything they weren't clear about. He was there for the students. So they were the only two that showed up. And so I went to him, and I let him know that I I was just asking him, like, I haven't been here for a month. Like, what did I miss? What's this test about? And he offered to give me the information. And so I was grateful for that. And he mentioned something. He said, it's so weird. He said, I was standing by a tree and getting ready to come into this class, waiting for the class to start, and this squirrel literally ran up and like hit me on my ankle. He said, I've never had that happen before. And so I thought that was, I thought that was weird. But anyway, we took to each other. I don't even remember if he said we could study together or whatever, but he is the one who ended up being I ended up being married to him. And so the previous stories that I told about overshadowing and seeing those two pools of darkness in his eyes and not knowing what I was looking at, but I could clearly see that he wasn't there. This was him. And so I remember we went out a couple of times, and he was, I thought he was a nice guy. And then one day he pops up over my place, and it's like the third time that I'm seeing him. And he comes in and he said, he said, you're a really nice girl. I like you. You're really nice. But he said, I have to, I just feel that I have to tell you this about me. He said, um, I have to give you a choice. Like, I have a dark side, and I just have to give you a choice about whether or not you want to be with me. And I was like, you have a dark side. I'm like, what? Nobody's perfect. You hear the warning? You heard my response. Nobody's perfect. Nobody ever came up to me and told me they had a dark side. He said, I have a dark side, and I just have to give you the choice of whether or not you want to be with me. And I was like, yeah, that's, it's fine. Nobody has, yeah, nobody's perfect. I had no idea what I was getting ready to walk into. No idea. Because it didn't take long for that dark side to show up. It didn't take long at all. And I can remember sometime later, my sister and I were rooming because I had the baby. I was first in the dorm, but then I needed to move off campus because of the baby. And so we were roommates in our own apartment. And her boyfriend and his best friend at the time, I can't remember, they were working, trying to go to school, but his friend, they lost their apartment. They couldn't keep their apartment, so her boyfriend moved in with her, and his best friend was actually the boyfriend of one of my good friends and next door neighbor in the dorm. And so he would come to our apartment so he could shower and everything, and then he'd spend the day at work, between work and my friend's place at the dormitory. And so one day, so my the one who would become my husband, he knew that, right? And one day this young man came in there, and the towels were in my room, and then he came in there, and my he would end up being my husband. He wasn't my husband at the time. He said something to me, but it was the way he said it. He warned me he had a dark side. I kept it away from my sister and all of them as best I could, because when that started to show up, I was like, oh my God, what is this? I was so embarrassed. But now he pushed it, and he did it in front of this guy. He said, when the guy came and he came to get his towel, then my boyfriend at the time, he said, get me that towel. He literally was like, get me that towel. My friend looked at me with raised eyebrows, like, what? Who does he think? Like, who does he think he's talking to? And I'm like, don't say anything, because I already seen a bad side. I've seen the bad side of him. I said, don't say anything. And he pushes that overshadowing. Now, I didn't know anything about the overshadowing, but that thing was deep, it was disrespectful, and it was coming from me. That wayward spirit was coming straight for me. And I was so embarrassed. And my friend, the only reason he didn't say anything is because I was like, no, because it was instinctive, right? And so I'm saying that to say, when we get warnings, there's a reason why. That I didn't realize. Many years later, I realized that darkness could not just walk into my life. It had to announce itself. That evil had to announce itself. It could not just walk in and seek to deceive me. It had to announce itself. It had to give me a choice. And I didn't realize that was what was happening. Because when I'm telling you, when he said, oh, I have a dark side, then it's almost like, bam, the dark side showed up. And so what I saw with him was that he literally could only be around people for a very short amount of time. That's students, other people, because he couldn't control that thing. He had no control. It's like he had no control over it. And he would drink one beer, and it would be like, it would give him an excuse to act that way. But when I say he had no control, it's like, because people that he actually thought were cool people and nice people to be around, by the second time he was in their presence, he had done something that was so offensive to them, they didn't want to have anything to do with him. But I had just had a baby, and for the first time in my life, I felt very bad about myself, that the interaction I had with my mom, and felt very bad about myself. Thought, no man, well, she actually said, no man will want you with a child, and you're not married, and this and that. And so my self-esteem, it may have already been down, but that's when it became conscious to me that it was like at bottom level, at ground level. But I just wanted to I just wanted to share that story because because of who we are, certain things have to be revealed to us. We may not realize in the moment what is being revealed, but it has to be revealed. And so when we look back, we can see, oh, this happened, that happened. Maybe it's something that I purposely overlooked. But this guy actually, he actually made it his business to come to my apartment. We weren't going anywhere or anything, to tell me this is who I am. And so when people show you who they are or tell you, he told me and then he showed me, and people show you who they are, believe them, believe them.